I mean, I certainly felt that if anyone was going to work on this, I wanted to be the person to do that because the movie means a lot to so many people, and especially the people that were involved in this film. And I knew that what my goal was the entire time as I was working on this film, I can just speak for myself, was to pay great homage to that first beautiful film, but usher in that spirit of that film into this new story and this film, this original musical. And it was a balancing act the whole time for us. But I think, you know, it was coming directly from here, directly from the heart, for all of us. We knew the bar was incredibly high. We know the bar is incredibly high. So it was something we were reaching for together. And all of us, I think, feel the same way. We have a great feeling for this piece. It has a great special place in our hearts, for all of us.
Vos questions peut-être? Qui voudrait poser une question en premier? Voilà, juste ici. Alors, un microphone, je pense. Ça arrive. Voilà, juste ici à droite. Hop. Ok, allez-y.
A question for Emily Blunt. I'm Thierry from TSA Jazz, a jazz radio in Paris. We have some songs swing jazz in the movie. It's a special for you to sing with jazz, with horns.
With horns?
Yeah.
Love your accent. With horns. Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting singing the songs in this film. I mean, I think that, you know, I think the composers Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman wanted to pay homage to the original. I think they are enormously protective of the original, hugely inspired by it, but yet this is a new time period. This is the next chapter, and so how do you honor the original, and yet they've musically carved out incredible space for themselves, and I think the songs are terribly exciting for us to perform. And certainly those big show-stopping numbers, which have a huge orchestral presence to them, are just, you know, thrilling to sing and to dance along with, you know. So yes, I loved singing to the horns.
And also, if I understood correctly, they kind of tweaked the songs as the development process went to really suit your strengths. Is that correct?
Sure. I mean, I think the songs for us felt like tailor-made suits by the time we were done. They were incredibly collaborative, and sometimes there were many songs that didn't end up being the chosen ones. You know, for my first song, there were about 3 or 4 different versions. For Lynn's first song, there were about 7 different versions, and it's really about waiting until you found something that feels perfect to everyone, to Rob, to me, certainly to the composers.
And that's the excitement of working on an original musical. This is an original film musical. That is such an endangered species. And it is so, and that requires a development process. So we worked, I mean, you guys worked on the script even longer than us, but since we were cast, we got to try out lots of different songs until it felt not just right for us as performers, but for the moment.
And we were lucky to know who was playing the parts as we were writing it, in addition to the songs, but the script as well, and it always helps to tailor-make these parts for these actors.
And how exciting for both of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there was really no other way, I think, because, I mean, we were literally creating these parts from scratch. And so, I mean, without Emily and Lynn involved from the very beginning, I don't know, we would have been inspired. I mean, I don't know how we would have done it. So, I mean, they were with us literally, this took 3 years. We started writing in 2015. They were on board almost right from the very beginning.
Yeah, we had a writer's workshop, and they were part of that, so we were able to really, really delve into these characters and the script. And then we had 2 months of rehearsals, which you never get on a film. And it's crucial for Rob and myself. We like the rehearsal process. And that's how we all bonded together, and the company really became a family. And I think you feel that. The relationships are very deep. We were able to.
Thank you. Une autre question? Voilà, là-bas au fond, madame.
Hi, Céline Fontana, TV Magazine. A question for Emily. How did you prepare yourself to become Mary Poppins? And what will you keep from her?
I did steal one of the umbrellas. I mean, I'm not going to say I stole it, but I'll probably get Alex, our props master, into trouble here. I was given a parrot umbrella, which I love and treasure. But how did I prepare for it? I found not only did we have an exquisite script to work from, written by David McGee, who really crafted something magical, complex, very exciting to play as an actor. I completely delighted in playing her. I think she's such a contradiction, and there's such a kind of rich tapestry, because you've got somebody who is practical and yet fantastical, and somebody who's grounded and yet airborne. You know, she's this superhuman with great humanity, and she's really funny and vain and rude, and so it's just sort of really exciting to play her. I did find the eccentricity that Rob and I were wanting to capture in the character was very much present in the books as well. You know, there's 7 other books written. So it was a sort of combination of the perfect script and the books, you know.
Lin, just a question for you. This was really your first big movie experience after having done so much cool stuff on stage. What was that like for you, and what was it like working with Rob?
Well, it's not unlike working on stage, except you finish a musical number and you have to wait a year and a half for people to applaud. That was the biggest difference for me, but it was honestly because Rob and John come from the theater. I can't think of a better preparation. Having those 2 months of rehearsal, having us really form a company within that rehearsal, and the other thrilling thing about this is we were building a new musical, which I do know a little something about, and so it was a joy to be a part of that process as an actor.
Alors ici, madame.
Oui, une question pour Rob Marshall, s'il vous plaît. J'ai été particulièrement épatée, je ne suis pas la seule, par le formidable ballet des allumeurs de réverbères, qui ne sont pas seulement des danseurs, mais ils sont d'authentiques gymnastes. Est-ce que c'était justement le critère pour y participer, et comment les avez-vous entraînés?
Okay, she's saying she loved the lamp lighting number, particularly not just because of the dancers, but because of how athletic and gymnastically they were, acting and dancing. How important was that a criteria for you when you were casting, not just Lin, of course, but all the dancers in that sequence? Did you go look for acrobats, dancers? How did you find them?
Well, that whole sequence was a dream for myself and John, being ex-dancers and choreographers. I've always wanted to do a production number of that length. It's an 8-minute production number with guys, of course Mary, and the children too. But it's really a male number, an athletic male number, and it's masculine, very much so. And that's something, you know, we come from that. I mean, I probably would have been in the movie if it were in the 80s. I would have been the Lamplighters. But I will say that I always look for character, and John and I are very similar this way. You know, I love great dancers, but if there's no character to them, you know, they're in a film playing people. So it's very important for me to find dancers that have their own personality, their own sensibility, their own something special, led by Lin-Manuel, who has all of that and more. I love working with actors who are singers and dancers. That's something that's really important to me, because I think without that, it becomes very vanilla. I always look for people who are bringing these characters to life, and I don't care if that's through acting or singing or dancing. It all comes from a place of truth, and so, you know, I think when you watch that number, you feel an eclectic group of men. And so it feels like, you know, there's short ones and big ones and tall ones, and it was such. Yes, exactly.
So we did hire, specifically we did ask for people that we were interested in some sort of gymnastic ability, and then we did audition, you know, the bike people that rode bicycles and people that did tricks, and
yes,
we knew we wanted to pepper with that, because it is this abandoned park and we wanted to just use everything we could.
But Emily's right. I mean, having those parkour, I mean, that was incredible. Those guys, those stunt guys, had never been in a musical number before. I don't think they knew.
That was very funny, actually. You trying to teach BMX riders timing.
Yeah, you've got to make your entrance on 5. And they're like, what do you mean on 5?
They were some of the best BMX riders in the country.
Yes,
they were
exactly.
like, what's 5? And you were like, in 3, 2, 1. And like, never got it right.
I said, if you don't come in, then you're going to get hit by a dancer. So you got to come in on the set. They were fantastic, though. They learned quickly.
Une autre question juste ici.
Hi, thank you for being in Paris today with us. I have a question for all of you guys. how did you succeed in giving a new life to this Disney classic for the new generation, but still giving a touch of nostalgia for the old generation? Thank you very much.
That is a great question, because throughout the movie we do have these little hints of the first one, and whether it's musically and some of the things we see. How important was that to you, Rob?
Well, it really was a balancing act, like I was saying before, the whole time, because you want to pay great respect and homage to that first perfect film, but at the same time you really want to make a new story. And so it was, you know, it really was about finding our story. The books are episodic adventures, and there's no real narrative to any of them. So we were able to use them for the set pieces, the musical set pieces, and some of the characters in the piece, but not so much the narrative. So David McGee and John DeLuca and myself created a story, and that was our way in. And I think, and I will say, like Emily was talking about going to the books, we went to the books too, to start and find our way. And because the books were written in the Depression era in London, that was a big key for us. And I have to say, setting it in the Depression era felt very current to me. I felt like, you know, we can all understand the struggle of that time, a darker time, and even holding on to your home. All of those things were something very, very, very current. And so that was one of our ways in, and that helped for sure. But, you know, how do you do both? It was this constant balance. But I will say, I was very aware of not using it and not reaching to the. I mean, I was more interested in creating something new, and found very specific and strategic places to pay homage, and then obviously spent most of the time focusing on creating an original musical.
John, did you want to add something?
I could. I think, in addition to all that, I mean, the little things you see, like there's the snow globe that a lot of people don't see. There are a lot of motives musically, but again, Robbie was very particular in what he allowed and what he didn't, what he allowed in. Because I think it's these little Easter eggs that make it even more fun for an audience. And even if they don't see it the first time, then they may see it on other viewings. But the thing that made it current for us was Rob saying about the state of the world it was getting darker and darker as we were creating this, and we just wanted to kind of give an antidote to the stress of the world that we were feeling at the time. And kind of, people were becoming so inured to the violence and cynicism of our world that we wanted to break through that. We wanted the clouds, the dark clouds, to part, and Mary to come through, Mary, metaphorically Mary, Emily, and give just a shard of light to the times as they're becoming kind of scary. And so that was another reason we felt we really, the time was right to do it now. And another thing on the time was right is because these three people that I'm next to. I mean, we get to have Emily, I mean, who no one else could do. As Rob has always said, there was one person for this role, and it was Emily Blunt. So then we got the go-ahead to do it, and then we had Lin-Manuel. I mean, the brilliance of these two, to be able to have them in this world at this time, and then we have Ron Marshall. And, I mean, what else can I say? That there's no one else that could have tackled this material like Rob did. Absolutely, yeah. His genius of inspiration on this film is unparalleled. And I was able to be there every day, and I saw every bit of it. He sculpted this creation with the care, the delicacy from every little, the minutiae and detail, but never losing sight of the whole. And I think that's a true artist, to be able to do that, to craft that.
Yeah, and then you said you think Rob's born in the wrong decade.
Yeah, Rob, if he were born earlier in the 20th century, we'd be talking about him with Vincent Minnelli and Stanley Donen and the makers of those great MGM musicals. And so to be able to be on board with an original musical from him, it was a dream come true.
On a une question juste ici.
Bonjour, vous évoquiez tout à l'heure la dimension politique qu'il pourrait y avoir un peu souterrainement dans le film. Elle était déjà présente dans le premier avec les suffragettes. Là, il y a une évocation des banques qui ressemble un peu à la langue des hommes, qui sont à la fois la meilleure et la pire des choses. Est-ce que c'est ce que vous avez voulu laisser entendre dans ce film?
So he's saying there is this sort of political subtext to the film. In the first one, you know, there were the suffragettes and everything. In this one, we really kind of see the dark side of the banks and bankers. Was that something you were sort of going toward?
Well, it's inherent in the Depression era in London, I think. And you know, the fact that they were losing their home was part of the time then. And but I think, you know, it's actually in a way a more personal message about loss and how you deal with loss. I mean, they were dealing with, of course, the loss that adulthood brings. Michael and Jane, as they have to deal with real struggles of life and so forth, you forget the wonder and the imagination that children have, and that sort of disappears and goes away. But specifically for this family, they were dealing with the loss of a loved one. And how do you repair? I mean, I think it's compounded by the fact that it's the Depression era. I mean, it's all falling apart. How in that dark time, how do you find the light? And the way they found that light is because Mary Poppins comes back, returns, and helps them in the most beautiful way, because it's not sort of laid out. She does it in this beautiful roundabout way, where they discover it themselves. And that's the extraordinary thing about the character and the way Emily played it, is that she lets them find it on their own in such a beautiful way, and then she's gone. And so I mean, that really is obviously the message of the film. You know, how do we all get through? I mean, how do you get up in the morning? How do you deal with loss? How do you deal with grief? How do you deal with struggle? How do you deal with all of that? Well, if you can find light, if you can find an injection of hope in some way, I mean, that's how you move forward. And it's all through the P.L. Travers books, too. This wonderful idea that if we look at life through a child's eyes with that sort of sensibility, it can lift you and help you move forward.
Emily, it's funny, everyone was saying before they could only see you in this role, and it does come up all the time in the press. But I'm curious to know, what did you think? Did you only see you in this role? I mean, what was the conversation like when Rob said to you, you're going to be Mary? Or do you
just, you know, because she's so iconic, and also because Julie Andrews is so very iconic, so, you know, you feel that weight of responsibility, and yet I just knew I was going to do it, and it was an instantaneous yes for me, and that's in a huge part to Rob, who I'd worked with before, who I knew would approach this with such elegance and depth and heart, and I knew this wasn't going to be the sort of 2018 version of Mary Poppins, where, as you said, I'd be singing Let It Go or something. I was like, that would have been my nightmare. You know, I think that nobody wants to see that version of Mary Poppins because she's emblazoned, and the movie is emblazoned into people's sense of nostalgia. It's this kind of, you think of your childhood when you think of Mary Poppins, and so you've got to honor that, and yet with a character like this, I found her so thrilling to play that the thrill very quickly overwhelmed any fear, you know.
D'autres questions? Voilà, juste ici.
Bonjour, question pour Emily Blunt et Lin-Manuel Miranda. Il y a 50 ans, Julie Andrews et Dick Van Dyke sont devenus des icônes de chez Disney, mais aussi pour toute une génération. Est-ce que vous pensez, est-ce que vous appréhendez aussi le fait de devenir des nouvelles icônes pour la nouvelle génération, voire même des icônes du cinéma?
Okay. So the question is, as Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke obviously became icons thanks to this movie to a whole generation, how do you guys feel about potentially becoming this new generation of icons for a new generation of film goers?
I'm so freaked out that I have a Barbie doll. That's when it became real to me, when they showed me the Barbie doll of Jack the Lamplighter.
Ken doll.
Yeah, Ken doll, but in the Barbie line. And it was, so it's very surreal, but I think what prepared me for it was actually bringing my son to set every day. I brought him every time there was a musical number, and you know, when we filmed Triple Little Light Fantastic, I sat him where the Banks children sit in that number, and I watched his eyes grow the size of dinner plates. And that was a sneak preview of how I think kids are going to react to this movie. It happened with my own son first, and he thought Daddy was very cool. So that's a pretty great legacy, if that's our legacy.
How about for you, Anna?
Well, I think the word iconic is so overwhelming. Actually, it's just like honestly, I've seen firsthand, especially with children, where it's moved me so much to see the spellbinding effect of this film. And, you know, I think that she's a character that is incredibly transporting for people, and certainly she's like she's my superhero, you know, so I guess I finally get to do a sort of Marvel character. It's like my version of a superhero. But I think, I mean, my own daughter, just to talk about our kids, you know, she said to me for the first time a few days ago, she said, do the voice, do your Mary Poppins voice. And I said, speak spot and off we go. And she went, you know, it's the first time she'd sort of come to terms with the fact that, I mean, she'd seen the film and she understands that I'm playing a part, you know, but I think that's when I feel the same. If you can be a hero in your kids' eyes before they become teenagers and we're inevitably embarrassing.
No, we know you're Mary Poppins.
Yeah, take the iconic look in their eyes right now.
Ok, juste ici, je pense, c'est qui a le micro? Voilà.
Bonjour à tous, du coup j'ai une question pour vous tous. On parlait justement de Dick Van Dyke, j'aurais aimé en savoir plus sur sa participation à ce film aussi.
Okay. Could you all say a bit about Dick Van Dyke and his participation in this movie and what it was like when he was on set?
Dick Van Dyke has more energy at 92 years of age than I have ever had in my life. He is human caffeine. And the 2 days he was on set were, I think, if you spoke to any of us, some of the most magic. Because it's a connection with that first film. It completes a story arc from that first film without giving anything away. And he's magic. You are more alive and more happy because you're in the same room as him. I've noticed when people watch the film, he gets 2 ovations. One simply for existing. He walks into the door and they go, Dick Van Dyke exists! And then he begins to fully Dick Van Dyke out, and everyone starts cheering again. So it was a thrill time. What's that?
I mean, you know, this for me personally was a dream come true. A childhood dream come true because he was my hero. And, you know, having him on the set, it was so surreal for all of us, basically playing the same old banker that he plays in the first film, 54 years later. And we were all there. He actually grabbed my hand as we were walking on the set and said to me, I feel the same spirit on this set as I did on the first film. And that meant so much to me personally, so deeply. And, you know, he delivers that beautiful monologue in the film to the kids. And Feed the Birds, the music is playing under. We were strategically placed it there because he's talking about the bird lady and the tuppence. And I mean, I just remember, I mean, they remember this too, I couldn't say cut because I couldn't breathe. And I was, it just came full circle. I mean, I will say he embodies the message of this film in his daily life. He brings it to his life. He finds the child inside of him and approaches life with that kind of wonder. And so it was honestly, and it's overused the word, but it was magical.
Une autre question? Voilà, qui a le microphone? Ok. Oui, vous pouvez me mettre debout?
Oui, bien sûr.
Merci.
Tout à l'heure, vous faisiez avec le retour de Mary Poppins, vous dites que vous faites référence au film de 1964. Le succès du film de 1964 est aussi la bande originale du film avec des chansons comme Supercalifragilistique ou Shem. Pourquoi ne pas avoir réutilisé ces standards comme on l'a vu pour d'autres reprises avec Mission Impossible? Est-ce que c'est juste pour des histoires d'argent, pour être un peu appliqué?
Mission Impossible.
Did you get that? Did you get that? So she's saying, so obviously this film is the sequel to the 1964 film with such iconic, again, word songs like Supercalifragilistic or Chim Chim Marie. Did you ever think at all about just reusing those songs, the same songs? Or her question was, might it be, you know, was it because of money you didn't want to use it?
Oh, no, not at all. We could have used everything. We had access to the whole, to all their songs, but we were writing a new musical. You know, and we weren't pretending that Mary Poppins isn't part of our story, those original songs. That's why you hear a little bit of Feed the Birds, like Rob just said, where you hear a melody of when Mary's around, you hear a little bit of Spoonful of Sugar, just little bits to know that we are following in that film, but we needed to pave a new way with a new script and new songs.
Yeah, honestly, actually, if you listen to the score, and I highly recommend you do, Mark Shaman has laid so many Easter eggs of the original score in at pivotal moments, and I catch new ones every time. You know, the moment Mary Poppins appears, he puts in 3 notes of the song the kids write in the first film about what they want in a nanny. Da, 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 da. It's 3 notes, and then we're on to the next thing. So it's always in service of the storytelling, not here we're going to play this melody you love because we know it'll make you feel things. It's always sort of story and period appropriate.
And it's also good to remember that, you know, the first film, those songs were served so beautifully that we didn't want to rehash that and do something. We wanted to, as John was saying, find our own path and you know, and not abuse reaching into that well too many times. Found specific places to use it, and as Lynn just said so beautifully, for story purposes, for story reasons.
Alors, une autre question? Voilà.
Hi. I would like to know what was the funniest scene to turn or to play for each one of you, and if you got on any dubs.
Okay, the funniest scene to shoot. Was there any funny anecdotes, moments of unstoppable laughter, people falling over?
I mean, I think with Meryl Streep we laughed all day long. An absurd number, I mean, and watching her go full sort of vaudeville in that number. She had such a delicious character to play. She had this accent from who knows where in the world, and I think she was showing off with the kids a little. Like every time we were filming, she just had this very mischievous air about her, and so I mean that was one of my favorite sequences.
Well, my favorites were the little boy that plays Georgie in the film had never acted before, so he doesn't have a self-conscious bone in his body. He doesn't know what it is to be self-conscious or to restrict himself. So he just lets his impulses come out, and it kind of drove some of us crazy. We had to rein him in. But most of the time, it was the most enjoyable thing. Like Robbie, he says action, and you know, Emily's doing things, and he'll just be playing the scene. He'll just be doing what a child would do. And so for me, that just tickled me inside and made it so enjoyable, those scenes.
How about for you, Emily?
Emily and I were always like, well, I mean, we laugh all day long because we find, I mean, Emily's hilarious, Lynn, so, I mean, it's a funny group of people. But I never can think of anecdotes. I'm so bad at
think of anecdotes because there's always some sort of in-joke that happened on set that no one else would find funny, but I don't know.
The things that made me laugh were things that didn't make Emily laugh so much. Is when we kept on putting her like so high in the air that it was so scary.
They thought that was really funny. I was really scared, actually.
Because Robbie would say, "Don't worry, we'll just do it once," and there they'd hoist her up
like 60 feet.
I mean, I did almost call lunch when you were up there.
So to us it was amusing, and poor Emily, who doesn't love to spin, we keep on making. She goes, "Don't tell me it's another spin." And so we would.
I'm actually very proud of the fact that Emily and Lynn did most of their stunt work on their own in this film, and that's pretty amazing, I will say.
And dancing.
Yeah, they did.
Well, they did all. No, all.
But I'm saying it's hard dancing.
No, yeah, but I mean some crazy wire work. They did all that.
No, but even the underwater, Emily going up and spinning up the water. I mean, that's all Emily.
Yeah.
Picking up those sponges underneath the water and doing that forward aerial cartwheel. Walkover, whatever she does, and that's all Emily.
Yeah.
I just trained her, and Lynn jumping up onto Big Ben, being thrust up there. That's him, and climbing, and he would. I mean, you were exhausted.
Yeah, but it was the best.
But he was he was charged by it, I must say, because I felt very badly when we would put him through, both of them through. But they were troopers and just dove in and never once said no, and that's a real bonus for us.
Une autre question juste ici.
Bonjour, Olivier Boin, journaliste groupe Centre France La Montagne. D'abord bravo parce que c'est un beau rayon de soleil dans ce monde de gris, cette Mary Poppins. Dans une industrie cinématographique américaine dominée par les super-héros, les blockbusters, est-ce que Mary Poppins est un peu quelque part une exception culturelle ou est-elle aussi une super-héros?
C'est un peu ce qu'elle disait avant, mais peut-être revenir dessus. He's saying, thank you for your film. It's really like a ray of sunlight during these great times. But he's saying, we were talking before about the whole superhero thing. Would you say that Mary Poppins is a cultural exception to superheroes, or is she, as Emily was saying before, her own superhero in today's world, for today's world?
I mean, what I love about the character is that she's so mysterious we don't know. I mean, she's enigmatic. Who is this person? Is she a superhero? Is she real? Is she not real? What is she? I mean, I will say the thing that Emily brought to this character, which no one could have on the planet Earth, is so many layers to this gorgeous character. So many, because it's not just, it could be so easily played as a cartoon, a two-dimensional character. But because Emily plays her, there's such a humanity to the character, in such three-dimension. And so you feel, of course, the facade of the strict and proper nanny, but underneath that, there's that humor that Emily has, and the heart, the beautiful heart that she brings, and the warmth. And that's something that is very hard to play, and because it's so full and so rich with so many layers. And so, is she a superhero? I mean, I feel like what I love about the character is that whatever she does, there is this incredible portrayal that makes her so accessible and human, and that you feel her deeply. And I think that's what you brought to the role, Madam.
Thank you, Rob. I mean, I also feel that she, because she is so mysterious, she doesn't reveal her inner workings to anybody, which gives her that enigmatic quality, which also gives her master plan a sort of sense of enigma. And like with most superheroes, you sort of know their very dark backstory. You know everything about them, and they also like to take credit for their superheroic acts. And I love that she doesn't. She almost pretends it doesn't happen, and she takes no credit for it, and she makes it all about them and this sort of incredible voyage of self-discovery that she leads them on, and plants seeds so that they shapeshift and change and discover a new point of view. But she does it in a way that's so delicate and so intelligent, and that's what I really loved about the character. And that she does command the environment that she's in, but sort of pretends not to, and holds it at arm's length because she will inevitably have to leave. Which I remember feeling devastated by as a child when I watched the original, and certainly my own daughter when she saw this one. When I looked at the balloon at the end and said, it's time, my daughter was like, no, because it's so sad that she leaves, but again, she's the superhero that makes it all about you. It's not about her,
And it is also largely due to what Emily has created, and she and Rob, what they have created, because it's a very nuanced performance. It's not in your face. It's very, it's a subtly shaded performance, and you almost have to go to it. Those are my favorite kind of performances. Both she and Lin, they have a knack that they don't push. They don't, because a lot of times when you're in a musical, it becomes a showy musical performance, and it's very out there for the last row, and they both don't have that. It's in their blood to just be honest, and if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. And I love those kind of performances where you have to go into them and watch them very closely because they're subtly shaded.
On a juste le temps pour une dernière question, je suis désolée. Qui a le micro? Voilà, super.
Bonjour, merci d'être là et merci pour le film. Moi j'ai une question. Est-ce qu'il a été prévu en une apparition de Julie Andrews? Je pense par exemple au rôle de Angela Lansbury qui semble écrit pour une apparition en fait.
Et pour Julie Andrews elle-même? Okay.
Oui, voilà.
Yeah, his last question is asking, did you ever think of a role for Julie Andrews? He's thinking of Angela Lansbury, the balloon lady. Could Julie Andrews have played that? Did you talk to her about it?
I spoke to, John and I actually both spoke to Julie. She's a very good friend of ours, and known her a long time. And I worked with her in the 90s. I choreographed a production of Victor Victoria on Broadway, so I've known her for a long time. When we told her we were doing this, she was very excited by the idea that we were doing this film, because she said it's about time. That's what she said to us. 50, 40 years, and this all, all these books, all this material. Why hadn't there been one? So she was thrilled. And when we told her who was playing Mary Poppins, she literally threw her arms up in the air and said, "I love her." That was a beautiful moment. She has great taste. And then But then we started talking to her about should she be involved in some way, you know, should we write a cameo or something for you? And she said, no. This is Emily's show. She should run with it. It's her film. And so, and that was long before we started writing. So we didn't write for her. And then, so the character of the Magical Balloon Lady is a character from the books. And we thought of Angela immediately. Because in a very quick amount of time on screen, you have to have something magical about you, and she just does. I mean, for her legacy of the Disney legacy with Ben Dobson broomsticks and of course Beauty and the Beast, but it's just who she is. I mean, you know, she was 91 when we shot the film too, and so she just carries with her such something special, that originality, and that beautiful moment between Angela and Emily. She comes up and says, you know, they're looking at all the people up in the balloons, and she says, of course the grown-ups will all forget by tomorrow. And then Mary says, they always do, which is really sort of the lesson of the film. You know, I think she brings something so special to this film. But I feel that way about the whole cast, I have to say. Every single person in this cast, including the children. I think the children are so beautiful in this film. And when I've worked on this film now for 3 years, when I see the film, I just feel like everyone has claimed their roles in this beautiful way, and it's theirs. It's astonishing work for the cast, I think.
Wow, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup à vous tous. That's all for the Merci beaucoup.